ಪ್ರವೀಣತ್ವೇ ನವೀನತ್ವೇತ GFU ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾ.
High above the jungles of northern Ceylon rises the sacred hill Mihintale.
Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, panati pata veramani.
It was here that Mahinda, sent by his father the Emperor Asoka of India to preach the Buddhist doctrine, first set foot in Lanka over 2,000 years ago. In the words of the ancient chronicles,
"And he, Mahinda, the terror of wondrous powers, coming hither with his following, alighted on the Silla peak, on the open and fair Ambatala. He who was foretold by the sage as bringing salvation to Lanka, alighted here, extolled by the gods of Lanka." Here ends the 13th chapter in the Mahavansa, compiled for the serene joy and emotion of the pious.
And it was here that the king Devanantiyatissa, while hunting in the jungles, met Mahinda and so became converted to the faith. To mark the place where king and Thera met, on the open and fair Ambatala, a Dagaba was later built to enshrine Mahinda's relics.
For when the king heard of his death, he went hither stricken by the dart of sorrow. And when he had paid homage to the terror, and often greatly lamented over him, he caused the dead body to be laid forthwith in a golden chest, sprinkled with fragrant oils.
Mihintale then was a great hill city of monks. Scattered over the slopes and the hilltops were the viharas and dagabas, the rock cells and bathing pools and steep stone stairways of the bhikkhu community. It was a retreat from the world of wars and earthly vanity, where monk and layman could seek to attain that state of detachment taught by the Buddha. Through the centuries, Mihintale has remained a place of pilgrimage and worship, a sacred place forever, as befits the birthplace of Buddhism in Ceylon. For 20 centuries or more, the uncovered feet of dark multitudes have ascended and descended the great stairway, their owners filled with awe and seeing visions of the mighty Buddha overshadowing the island with his presence, and of Mahinda, his apostle, alighting on the topmost crag.
Verily there is a middle path, a path which opens the eyes and bestows understanding, which leads to peace, to insight, to the higher wisdom, to nirvana.
Our minds shall not waver, no evil speech shall we utter. Tender and compassionate shall we abide, loving of heart, void of malice within. And we shall ever be suffusing such a one with the rays of our loving thought, and with that feeling as a basis, we will ever be suffusing the whole wide world with thought of love, far-reaching.
8 miles to the west lies Anuradhapura, for over 1,000 years the capital of the kings of Lanka. Here stands the great Ruangwalidagaba, built by the warrior king Buddhagamani 150 years before the coming of Christ.
The flowers here shall not wither, the perfumes shall not dry up, the lamps shall not be extinguished, nothing whatsoever shall perish.
In those days, the city grew so much in size that they gave it a circuit of 12 leagues and a length of 4, with walls, bastions, and towers of brick. Travelers of the time said of Anuradhapura,
"It is the residence of many magistrates, grandees, and foreign merchants. The mansions beautiful, the buildings richly adorned, and houses for preaching built at every thoroughfare. There are 360 temples of unusual grandeur, with monstrous dagavas, of which the Parakrama, built to enshrine the Buddha relics, is said to be the oldest."
And when the ruler of the earth had completed the beautiful Tupa in the Parakrama, he caused it to be worshipped perpetually with gifts of many jewels.
And the public buildings were richly adorned by diverse carvings cunningly wrought. The city's fortunes rose and fell. Invasion was followed by counter-invasion, victory by defeat. Through 10 centuries of changing destiny, the image of the Buddha sustained and comforted the people. But as all human prosperity has its limits, and great riches become an incentive to great vices, when this city was most prosperous, then was it ruined entirely.
The Pandu king took away and despoiled all valuables in the treasure house of the king, and plundered what there was to plunder in Vihara and town. He made the island of Lanka deprived of her valuables, leaving the splendid town in a state as if it had been plundered by yakas.
But the spirit of the city they could not destroy. On every festival day, when the moon is at the full, and especially at Vesak and Posong time, the people come in pilgrimage to Anuradhapura to worship at the shrine of the sacred Bo tree, the illustrious tree of wisdom. The Mahavamsa records how King Devanampiya had the south branch of that same Bo tree, under which the Gautama Buddha reached enlightenment, brought from India and planted in the royal Mahamegha park.
And when the great Bodhi tree had taken its place, all the people who had come together from the country round worshipped it with offerings of flowers and so forth. And bringing about in such wise the good of the dwellers in Lanka, the king of trees, the great Bodhi tree, lasted a long time in the island of Lanka, endowed with many wondrous powers.
And there, since the ages before Christ, the tree has been tended, guarded, and watered, surrounded with the perfume of adoration and the atmosphere of prayer.
With diverse flowers, the Buddha I adore. Even as these flowers must fade, so does my body march to a state of
But the spirit of the city they could not destroy. Festival day, when the moon is at the full, and especially at Vesak and Posong time, the people come in pilgrimage to Anuradhapura to worship at the shrine of the sacred bow tree, the illustrious tree of wisdom. The Mahavamsa records how King Devanampiya had the south branch of that same bow tree, under which the Gautama Buddha reached enlightenment, brought from India and planted in the royal Mahamegha Park.
And when the great Bodhi tree had taken its place, all the people who had come together from the country round worshipped it with offerings of flowers and so forth. And bringing about in such wise the good of the dwellers in Lanka, the king of trees, the great Bodhi tree, lasted a long time in the island of Lanka, endowed with many wondrous powers.
And there, since the ages before Christ, the tree has been tended, guarded, and watered, surrounded with the perfume of adoration and the atmosphere of prayer.
With diverse flowers, the Buddha I adore.
Through this merit may I attain release.
Even as these flowers must fade, so does my body march to a state of destruction.
Years after the fall of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa became the new capital of the kings of Lanka. It was a metropolis of parks and gardens, lakes and waterways. There were temples and viharas, monasteries and palaces, hospitals, almshouses, schools and libraries. Kings of Polonnaruwa, Parakrama was the greatest. The account of his building and good works fills 9 chapters in the Mahavamsa.
Then he erected there his own palace, and around it a second wreath of walls, and built thereon a palace 7 stories high, furnished with 1,000 chambers. And there He who ever trod the path of true doctrine erected an audience hall. It was surrounded by an enclosure of colored curtains and adorned with costly carvings. Again, the ruler, the leader of the earth's protectors, had a private garden built. As one felt that it showed by its beauty a likeness to the heavenly pleasure garden, it received the name Nandana. In this town, furnished thus with every luxury, like to a garden made beautiful by union with the joy of spring, which he, the king, himself enlarged so that it was 4 gautas long and 7 broad, which possessed a splendid wreath of walls, which was resplendent with fair dwellings, which was an elixir. In this town, the Lord of men had many temples built. In this manner did Parakrama make the aforesaid small town of Pulattinagara splendidly adorned as the city of the tower thinks of gods.
This flower, fresh-hued, odorous and choice, I offer at the sacred lotus-like feet of the noble sage.
Likewise the ruler of men, by breaking down the rock not far from the great Tupa, had 3 grottos made by expert craftsmen.
Now, this is the noble path that leads to the passing away of pain. That is to say, right views, right aspirations, right speech, right conduct, right mode of livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right rapture.
Therefore, ye, O spirits, listen to me. Be friendly towards the race of men who day and night bring these offerings, and keep guard over them diligently.
And to put away the sufferings of famine from living creatures, the king had many tanks and canals built in diverse places. For, he said, in a country like this, not even the least quantity of rainwater should be allowed to flow into the ocean without profiting man. Remember that it is not meet that men like us should live and enjoy what comes into our hands and care not for the people. Let there not be left anywhere in my kingdom a piece of land, be it of the smallest dimensions, that does not yield some benefit to man.
But the invaders came again and ransacked the kingdom. They broke the banks of the lakes and canals, which now spilled their waters over the parched earth. The proud sea of Parakrama turned into an abandoned swamp. The canals became depressions in the jungle. But in all Ceylon, that place which is held to bring most merit to the pilgrim, is Shripada, the mountain of the holy footprint. Muslims say the footprint is that of Adam, who alighted here after he had been driven from the Garden of Eden. For the Hindus, it is Shiva's mountain. But to the Sinhalese, it is the mountain of the god Sumana, and the footprint is there. The people of the land count it meritorious to go and worship this impression. And generally, about their new year, which is in March, they, men, women, and children, go up this vast and high mountain to worship. Into the dusk and all through the night, the unending procession mounts upwards, intent upon reaching the summit before the dawn of a new day breaks over the hills and jungles of Ceylon. On one side, the wonder of the rising sun. On the other, the mystery of the shadow of the peak. For 20 minutes or more, the image of the sacred mountain floats above the island, then slowly fades.
I shall not destroy any living thing.
I shall not steal that which belongs to another.
I shall not indulge in sensual pleasures.
I shall not speak that which is untrue.
And still the unending procession climbs upwards to the summit, 7,500 feet above the level of the sea. At the shrine of the holy footprint, they offer flowers in memory of the Master. For it is written in the Mahavamsa,
And when the teacher, compassionate to the whole world, had preached the doctrine there, he rose, the Master, and left the traces of his footprint plain to sight on Sumanakuta. Thus the Master of boundless wisdom, looking to the salvation of Lanka in time to come, visited the island 3 times. Therefore this isle, radiant with the light of truth, came to high honor among faithful believers.